Look forward to seeing you all.
Hello, everyone. We are starting the fourth dialogue meeting, which we are here since March. And today we talk about active learning, how we learn in controversies and how we can learn the word as the word is now. Well. Consider also it's a dialogue with Dragon Dreaming. It's really nice. We start with this stop, connect with ourselves. Within Dragon Dreaming, we bring the Aboriginal wisdom, and the name is Pinakari. Pinakari is this word that means we be connected with the earth, connected with ourselves, connected with the others. So let's do this short Pinakari. You just connect with your body and connect with your breath, the air in, the air out. You can close your eyes if you are comfortable with that. If not, you just relax and look down. Just connect with yourself and feel your body. Relax tensions, muscle tension. When we connect with the gravity, connect with the sensation of gravity in your body, you can relax. Let go expectations. Just to be here and now. And we can bring this perception of the group. We are here with the others with the same intention to be connected, to learn. You are part of that. We are here together. Take a breath, deep breath, and open the eyes. To start today, I'll pass the words to John first. After that, we'll have a dialogue, and then I have some thoughts to share too, and we have a conversation together. Great, John.
Thank you, Liz. It's interesting that that exercise that we've just done is really important, because in the Aboriginal language of the Great Sandy Desert in the centre of Western Australia, Pinakari literally means ears up. It's what kangaroos do when they pay attention. When they pay attention 100% to what is happening. And in active learning, in controversies, we need to do that. Not once, but over and over and over again. It's interesting what is happening right now in Australia. 7 years ago, Aboriginal people from all over Australia came to the centre of the continent, to the great red sandstone at a place called Uluru, that is the centre of Australia. And there they asked for three things. They asked for a voice, they asked for a treaty, and they asked for truth-telling. And in October this year, Australia is going to have a referendum whether the constitution of our country gets changed so that Aboriginal people can have a voice to the government. We haven't had a voice for Aboriginal people up until now. And this is really important, because in controversies, people need a voice. And the voice that is coming, if we vote yes in our constitution, we will acknowledge Aboriginal people inside the governing constitution of Australia. If you were to look at all the people who've lived in Australia, at the moment, it's about 3.5 to 4% of the population of Australia is now Aboriginal. Only 3.5 to 4%. But 3.5 to 4% now, if you count all of the people who've ever lived in Australia, all of the people who've lived in this land, what that means is that there have been 43 million people in Australia who are descendants of immigrants like myself. My ancestors came from England. But if you count all the humans who've lived in Australia, 396 million of them have been Aboriginal. 90% of the humans who've lived in Australia have been Aboriginal. And the Aboriginal culture of Australia is the oldest culture on the planet. It's a culture that has survived 68,000 years. Nowhere else on earth has there been a culture with experience of that deep. Nowhere else on earth have people been so successful in resolving conflicts between people. Resolving conflicts so that in Australia, until the Europeans arrived, there had never been a war in Australia. There had never been a famine in Australia. And they've just recently discovered that the Aboriginal people here in Australia were the world's first makers of bread. They've been making bread for 30,000 years. The next oldest bread making is in Egypt 17,000 years ago. And Aboriginal people were farmers, but they were farmers of a different kind than on every other continent. In Europe, farmers fenced their land with a barrier around their land and grew their crops in that area. Aboriginal people in Australia grew their crops on the songlines. They grew their crops on the songlines that are a part of dragon dreaming. Not for themselves, but for the next person who'd walk that songline. And this is a little bit of the way in which through Pinakari, we can deepen ourselves so that we avoid conflict. And that the differences of opinion, the differences between me and you, and the differences between each other, all of you people, can be a resource for building a world that works. A world that works not just for me, not just for you, but works for all 8 billion people alive on the planet today. And that's the biggest task we have now. The biggest task we have is to build a world that works for everybody. And for that, we need to find a way of dealing with differences of opinion. We need to find a way of dealing with controversies. Now, in learning, a lot of our learning is passive. The research shows that if you read something, you remember about 10% of what you've read. If someone tells you something like I'm telling you right now, you remember about 20 to 30% of what is being said. If you see something and you hear it, you can remember about 50, maybe if you're lucky, 60% of what has been said. But it's been shown that the most active way of learning is to do it for yourself. What has been found, and we say this in Dragon Dreaming very often, you forget 50% of what you've learned within 24 hours. Liz has just put up the learning pyramid. The best way to learn something, where you learn 95% of what is available, is where you share and teach other people what you've learned within 24 hours. So in Dragon Dreaming, what I always say is that please try and share what you've learned from others within 24 hours of learning it. And that way you'll remember. It'll slow down the forgetting curve that comes down like this. It'll be flatter. And then again, within a week, share it again. And you'll find that you remember so much more of what you've learned within 24 hours. So share it within you start learning with 100% of what you've learned. In a day, teach someone else, share it with someone else. And then in a week, share it again. And this way, you'll find that active learning becomes a tool for yourself that helps you in resolving conflicts and controversies. Now, the next thing too I want to say, controversy is a tool. We are limited. We have limitations in ourselves. And these limitations are going to lead to blockages in our projects. I know personally that in terms of my own personal style, I tend to be a dreaming planner. My projects are well developed in the dreaming stage and in the planning stage. Where my projects have got weaknesses and get blocked is in the doing stage and also to a degree in the celebration stage. So that if I'm going to make my dreams come true, I need to find doers and celebrators to work with me in the project. Because only then can we overcome blockages in the weaknesses that we have. It's one reason why I love working with Liz. Because I know Liz is a great doer. And working with Liz helps me overcome my blockages. Personal growth is essential to dragon dreaming. And you need to be able to recognize where your blockages occur. Now, sometimes my blockages occur in the dreaming and the planning stages too. Because what tends to happen is, as a dreaming planner, I will try and use dreaming and planning skills when doing or a celebration task is more appropriate. So I need to build a team around the projects that I do that bring together those people. And you will need to do the same yourself, to recognize where your projects get blocked and to find ways of building a team with people who are strong in the areas where you're weak. And if you can do that through active learning, you will find that controversies can in fact contribute to your projects. The process of a dreaming circle where you get everyone to gather in a circle around the project and they share what would make this project the best project for me personally that I could possibly ever do. And each person shares what it is for them. And we document that. And that becomes the collective dream around which we build the project. And you cannot say no to someone else's dream. If I was to say no to Imka's dream, or to Valeria's dream, or to Liz's dream, that is a lie, because that's saying I know more about Liz than she knows about herself. And so we need to find a way of bringing together the collectivity of all of the people in the team. And in saying that, it doesn't mean that I automatically understand what they say. But if I don't understand, I can ask a question. I can ask, look, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Can you explain it again? But the danger is, if you do that too much, you get lost in analysis paralysis. You get not locked in a way of paralyzing the project through too much analysis. So you need to document that for yourself. And then, once it's been documented for all the people around the circle, it's quite possible that maybe someone else in the circle, maybe Julian has said something that stimulates another idea for me. And so we need to go around the circle a second time. And we keep going around the circle until everyone passes. And when everyone passes, that becomes the collective dream, beyond controversy, around which we build our project. It's a collective dream. And when we get to that place in which everyone passes, they've got nothing more to add, we then read the collective dream, but we make it with a change. We make it with a change in which we speak about the collective dream in the past tense, as though that dream has already happened. And we speak about that dream not as I, but as we, to bring all the different ideas together. And that becomes the way of using controversy to build something that's collective, not just for me, not just for you, but for all the stakeholders that come together to create the project. And we need to include them all. if the project is going to be successful. And right now on the planet, we are needing to build the biggest project that this world has ever seen. The biggest and most important project, if there is to be a continued human life on this planet. At the moment, the richest 1% of the population is producing as much climate change as 70% of the rest of us. We need to bring people together in a way that's never before been tried. And that's the work you're doing. I have no idea what's going to make the difference. But I know that if we are to have continued human life on planet Earth, we need to liberate human creativity. We need to liberate your human creativity on a scale that has never before been tried. And that is the hope, and that is the promise, I hope, of Dragon Dreaming. With the 3 objectives: your own personal growth, the strengthening the communities of which each of you are a part. You belong to multiple communities, and they need to be stronger. And the 3rd objective is that the projects you do need to be in service to the earth, for the strengthening and regeneration of life itself. And they're the 3 objectives that bring together the projects that are done through Dragon Dreaming. And every skill you possess, all of the abilities you have, are a result of the projects you have done. You have been doing projects all your life without recognizing it. Learning to walk in this lifetime was a project. Something you put out in front of yourself and you moved into. That was one of the early projects you do. Life itself, your life is a project. In fact, your life is the biggest project you'll ever do. You see, we say in Dragon Dreaming there are 4 steps: dreaming the project, planning the project, doing the project, and celebrating the project. Children spend most of their time dreaming. Adolescents and young adults spend a lot of time planning. And then as an adult, you spend most of your time doing. And when you get to my age, you want a bit more celebration in your life. Thank you very much. So your life is a project using the 4 steps of Dragon Dreaming. In terms of controversy, where the controversies are going to happen is in the blockages that you have in your projects. And we know that each of those 4 steps is a fractal. It's a pattern that when you break up that pattern and look at each bit, you find the full pattern in each one. So in the dreaming stage, the first step to your project is awareness. You need to cultivate your awareness to discover what is the source of your project. Now, you can have all of the awareness in the world. It won't make a difference. What you need with the awareness is motivation to make the difference. And if you are aware and you are motivated, you will gather information that will help you and inform you in doing your project. So the outcome of the first quadrant is the feedback that comes from that awareness back to your feedback that comes from gathering that information back to your awareness. And you can get blocked at any one of those 4 steps. If you lose the revision of your awareness, then you lose awareness. You become demotivated. In terms of gathering information, you get lost in disinformation or misinformation, which stops you from being able to do your project. In the second quadrant, the first step there is to consider alternatives. And those alternatives will come as a result of the controversies that exist within your group. And if you can harvest those controversies, you'll be able to consider alternative ways of doing your project. Then you need to design your strategy. And on the basis of that strategy, you need to test your strategy in the real world. And from testing your strategy, that will lead you to reconsider the alternatives. So, if you get blocked in the second quadrant, what shows up there is a belief there is no alternative, or there's only one alternative. The second blockage is when, in creating the project, it seeks to manipulate or to coerce others into doing what you want. And the third step is you don't test your project, you avoid risk, you play it safe, you don't get engaged in the environment. And as a result of that, you fail to reconsider the alternatives. And all of what I've just shared is on the theory side of the line. In Dragon Dreaming, you need to move from theory into practice. You need to implement your project. You need to monitor and look at the administration and management that's necessary for doing your project through the Karabirat, through the game board on which you play your project. And then you need to monitor your progress. And as a result of monitoring your progress, it will lead you to re-evaluate the way in which you're implementing. And if you get blocked there, again, there are symptoms that show where the blockage is occurring. 25% of every project needs to be celebration. If you're not celebrating 25% of the time, your project will not last more than 4 years. 90% of new businesses do not last longer than 4 years. 90% of government programs don't last longer than 4 years. And the reason why is that if you're doing the project without celebration, you will get burnout. And if you get burnout, for your own health and your own sanity, you'll need to leave the project, and it'll collapse in your wake when you go. Because when you go, you take all of the history, all of the ideas, all of the experience of the project. So, active learning with controversy is the basis by which we need to harness those tools if we are going to build a world that works for everybody, instead of building a world that just works for 1% of the super rich. I could go on and on and on. And so I'm going to pause there and ask if anyone has got a question that they'd like to ask, because it's your questions, your controversies that are going to help us get through this subject and look at the dialogue, so that in dialogue means 2 words, me listening to you and you listening to me. So I pause there. Thank you all. Has anyone got anything they'd like to share? And since no one has got anything to share, who would like to go second?
John, I think, as I said before, I have something to share before, and also before we share everything, maybe my suggestion, if people want to go deeper in dialogue, we make a break rooms as we did last time for 10 minutes for people know each other and can share, then we come back. I think it creates more powerful energy for we share with all. So if everyone it's okay with that, I can see someone is driving and the other is without camera. If you are okay, we share in pairs before. I think it could be a good idea, but you need to like that. It's okay. You can make a signal for me or not. Yeah, great. So for that, just to give some clue about what we could share, no? John said so much about the project and how we can overcome and learn and to make our project success. And also give a revision about Dragon Dreaming, which is good. I would like to bring the reflection for my personal learn and how I live my life with this attitude of learning. And consider also we are part of a historical context. Now, we receive from the 17th centuries the Cartesian stimulus, the Cartesian perspective of learn, of mind, for create our mindset. You know, and I think it's also part of the controversy because we are now in an open world, which we need to learn everything, we need to know everything with such strong demand for life. But in opposite way, we also have this historical influence. And we are here, I'm sure all of you are trying to make a difference, to open the mind, to be more viable, flexible for this new world. And John mentioned about to liberate ourselves, about to give voice for Aboriginal people, but also how we can give voice for ourselves. I know in projects also sometimes people feel they don't have voice. And how is your voice? You know, how you deal with express what you know, express what you'd like for your life, and how you know about yourself enough to liberate yourself. It is Paulo Freire, you know, it's a very deep author reference for Dragon Dreaming. He said that we liberate ourselves. It's not others will say I have voice. It's I need to find my voice, and it create my freedom, it create my powerful, and then I can stay in the world to offer my gift for the world. And I'm sure when you say that, it seems to be super easy. Let's do that. But we know it's not easy. It's not easy to do that. It's not easy to Sorry, John.
If I can add something to what you're saying, just briefly.
Yeah, feel free.
What happened in our culture, as Liz was talking about, the Cartesian paradigm? We defined intelligence as cognitive intelligence, something that happens in here. And so we developed intelligence tests and examinations. And if you look at that way of thinking about intelligence, it gave advantage to white men. And it gave advantage to white men who were academic. What we forget is that intelligence is multiple different kinds. For example, I have an intrapersonal intelligence, How well do I understand myself? But then there is an interpersonal intelligence. An interpersonal intelligence, how well do I understand others? And then I have cognitive intelligence here. Cognitive intelligence that is based on language. It's based on understanding. It's based on logic. But then there is emotional intelligence. And so we've got these different kinds of intelligence. We have a spatial intelligence that determines how I relate to the world. Some people have a great deal of musical intelligence. And then there's spiritual intelligence. And we need all of these different kinds of intelligence to come together if we are going to overcome the problems we're facing. And that needs other people. It needs you. So I really strongly support Liz in saying, let's go into our breakout groups of 2 to explore some of these issues as a pair and then bring them back to share with the whole group. Thank you, Liz.
Maybe it's a good example of white men expressing themselves. Yeah. White man, which has the power of the word, and how we deal with these controversies, how we give voice for women, for example. No, I work a lot with women, and we see how subtle is this behavior. It's really subtle. And so I invite us to reflect about what are your own controversies. We have the controversy in the world, but we also deal with our own controversy to learn. To learn is not just the content, information, but also learn through your experience. To empower yourself through your own experience. I like the concept of active learning that is content, informations, experience, your own reflections, plus the questions emerge from that. So it is active learning, and how you put yourself, your own goal for your personal development, for your innovation, your personal innovation. When we come back, I have some graphics to show and some draw to show you about that. But let's talk about that. What is your own controversy and how you deal with that? How you find your own way? Because it is also about active learning. We need to find our own way to take your path and go in direction of your goal. Okay, I know some people is driving, is not here, but well, let's talk with who is available. And great, and you do here. Okay, I'll put not so much, maybe 8 minutes, just for we have a connection. Well, some people leave. Maybe, well, I don't know if it will. Okay, let's see. And who is, there is a group there, 8 kids with other people. Maybe you can talk between you for not make a confusion in the break room. Okay.
Hi.
Do you want to go there? Because another person was...
I went into a breakout room and there didn't seem to be anyone else there.
Yeah, you can... Well, I thought you not to go. You can go there.
I could be in a breakout room with you, dear woman.
Thank you.
Hello, people. Good. Was a good time. I hope have been a good time. Before I open the dialogue, I would like to share more 3 things with you. One, it's about neuroscience and the new perspective of neuroscience of learning. And what it's discovering, finally, is that the learning process needs to be motivated. We need to be enthusiastic about that. And now they discovered what is the path of neurons, how we can make new connections in our brain through motivation, through enthusiasm of learning. And there is some process for that. It's being, when you're being engaged in some activity, it stimulated the emotional activation in our brain, and it creates the stimulus for I continue going, and it liberates neurotransmitters, and then we feel good. And from this feeling, from these connections, from these neurotransmitters, building a new synapses. And so it's not just boring learning, but when we are motivated with that, it's a good for our mind, it's a good for our brain. And we learn as human beings through motivation. And pay attention on that and how you can cultivate your motivation for your learning. And other thing I would like to share here is this graphic. I don't know if you have heard about the effect Dunning-Kruger. And we are talking here with Joanna and about how challenging is learning while we are in relation with others and in the projects, in the doing stage. And one of the possibilities of this challenge, in our own challenge and also in the projects, can be the effect Dunning-Kruger. It's mean that we have the trust to have the knowledge. What happened in the own trust, the confidence, maybe the confidence is the better. What happened when we are in contact with some content or some knowledge or some experience, we have this higher peak of confidence and we think, I know everything about that, it's so easy. And some people stay on that with superficial content, with superficial experience and stay here. And what happened, it's create the feeling, that the behavior of arrogance. You know? And it can, some people can block it here. It's nice to think about, maybe I blocked it here in some aspects. It's good to do this reflection about yourself too. And then when you go further, try a little bit more, study a little bit more, we discover it's not simple as I imagined. Then we down our confidence, and discover I don't know anything about this subject. And it can be so stimulated for wow, and be more curious about and more motivated to discover more and looking for new information or new experience, and then is the curve up again for finally you be confident enough about that subject, about that experience. I also found this cycle, which I found really interesting, because it's a cycle of growth. But it's not a real cycle. Can you see there is many cycles, and you go and back and go further and connect the different feelings and different self-perception. You see curiosity, exploration, reflection, grieving. We are also talking about that. Sometimes in our learning process, we are frustrated. We think that's not good, you'll be sad. And how to deal with these considered negative feelings. Then there is the healing, you overcome, have new insights and expansion. And all of that, what you have here, self-awareness, state of unawareness. You don't know. So then for you overcome what you don't know, you need to jump in the experience, jump in new possibilities, in new contents, in new information, and work about self-compassion, self-actualization, look yourself, go again for this curiosity. All of that, it's about learning and active learning, and it's not a simple cycle. And I really love this draw, because it show to us it's a process. We go and back, go and connect, and these many feelings and learnings, ahas, insights. So yes, it is some clue I'd like to share to stimulate our conversation. Let's open your microphone for you share what ahas you have, what questions you have. Maybe you can share your experience. Let's open for dialogue.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I wanted to share an aha at the beginning of the dialogue session. You started talking about this blockage wheel stuff, and also you, John, talked about your strong dreaming power and planning power, and I realized my contradiction with dragon dreaming itself, that exactly this is missing for me often, the doing more than the celebration. And at the same time, I was really happy to realize that we helped dragon dreaming. I don't know, at the moment we do an Erasmus Plus project here in Germany, and 1 week ago we have been to Austria.
We lost you.
Micah, you've suddenly dropped off.
Yeah, I think his internet. Let's wait till he come back. Well, if someone wants to say something, feel free. Then when he come back, we return.
Perhaps I can say something that might stimulate.
Yeah.
I spoke about the information gathering stage at the end of the dreaming. it's when you put that information into practice in the real world that you begin to gain understanding. And then, when by doing it, you monitor your progress, that's when you get true knowledge. And Liz was showing the Dunning-Kruger curve for the gathering of knowledge, for getting knowledge. But knowledge by itself is not the end either. It's through deep reflection that you move from knowledge into wisdom. And wisdom is deeper than knowledge, just as knowledge is deeper than understanding, just as understanding is deeper than information. And so that's the way in which we move, hopefully towards wisdom. And it's wisdom that leads you to reconsider, to reflect on what is happening, that leads you to gain the skills you need to make the changes you need for your life. Thank you.
Thank you. I am looking the chat, and Valerie shared something really important in our current world. It is happening in many countries, which is people lose their lives for their voice. It's a very interesting reflection, no? And what John said is learn with wisdom, from knowledge to wisdom. It's also, well, it's just a reflection here and now. It's when you live in such place which you cannot, you are oppressed to give your voice, to say something, to manifest, express yourself. How to find your freedom on that? It's possible or not? You know, maybe when you say about voice, it's also my reflection. It's me exactly the words, or can be other thing through my freedom. No, and maybe to pass through this way of information, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom to find your own liberation, your own freedom to stay in the world. It's my reflection about what Valerie say, which is kind of controversy we are facing here in current world. Yes, Heik, we lost you. You can continue.
I don't know where I got lost, but I had another aha.
You said about you were doing so much, and then you have a half from that.
Yeah. I talked about the workshop. I told you about the workshop program already. Did you hear this?
No.
You did with Ulrike in Austria.
You stopped there.
No. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I realized, okay, I have this conflict with dragon dreaming that's missing a lot of doing, sometimes celebration, but I feel celebration is already enough, and it's stuck in general sometimes for me in the doing phase. And then I wanted to share that we did the workshop 2 weeks ago. We're doing Erasmus Plus program at the moment here in Germany, and we did a workshop based on your Prockage wheel with Ulrike Reimann. I don't know if you know her or you can remember. And it was really wonderful to add a lot of doing to this theory and a lot of methods. We collected methods that can help for speaking authentic, or you give a lot of solutions, but it's missing the concrete method how to do. And we collected so much methods, and it was good to fill this and to feel also the responsibility that it's on our own, that if we see something's missing, it's our responsibility to add this, what we think is missing. And yeah, this was one aha I had.
Great.
And we had a really good workshop and interesting stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Yes.
And I have one more, I don't know, question. Maybe.
Yes.
Or is there some reaction or what to know? Okay.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, if there is somebody else want to add something to this point at the moment, or if it's okay that I add another question.
Go ahead.
Yes, because we talked about this possibilities or where projects can plug, and that it's also important to have, of course, all these resources, all these capacities in every phase, 25%, but also the people, the power of the human being that incorporate these qualities. And we realized again that we are in our project, that the group we are listening at the moment or listened to you, that we're missing really planning qualities, and that showed up also in losing connection, because this was of accu battery got down. We were well prepared for this call, just in micro analysis. And we thought about, in our breakout session, we talked about how these two ways of solve this problem. Is it the only way to get somebody with these qualities, or is the other way to be aware of missing this quality, and how we can add this quality even without somebody new enter with these qualities?
Develop the qualities yourself.
Yes.
Yes. Just quickly, a response. One of the things about the doing stage of a project is the doing stage of every project is different. The doing stage is different in every project because there's different skills, different abilities, different things that are needed. And what we find is that the process of dragon dreaming starts very wide at the dreaming stage and focuses down to the testing stage. And then from the testing stage, it starts to diverge again. And so that recognition is really important. And so what we try and do is develop a series of skills that can be used in the doing stage, which is where the Karabirit fits, where you identify for your project, your personal project, somewhere between 24 and 48 different tasks or activities that need to be done in order to make your project happen. And to map the song lines that connect those activities. How does one activity lead to another? And there's 3 different areas in that. There's areas that are needed to take your project out to the world. There's areas that need to develop in order to strengthen the group of which you are a part. And then there's some activities in the middle that have characteristics of both. And so mapping those out as a group in the planning stage helps with the doing stage. And then in the doing stage, as you're doing it, identify which tasks have started already, which tasks need to be done next, and which tasks does the group not have the skills at the moment to be able to do. And then look at, for those tasks that people don't have the skills at the moment to do, can we identify someone else who has those skills or the abilities to do those tasks and enroll that person into the project? Find a way to open up the dreaming again and enroll that person into the project so that they can do those tasks that you can't do. Eike, does that help?
Yeah, I think it helps. It's what I imagined a bit. Yeah. Yeah, I think it helps. Thank you. We don't hear you, Lisandra.
Yeah, what Eike said, it's interesting. And John mentioned about some techniques. But techniques, it's the way to do. Now it's like the recipe. But my point I would like to call attention is, and you mentioned it, is what is before we use the recipe. Before we use the recipe, it's the person. It's how you deal with yourself, how you deal with your own responsibility. And big part of the blockades I see in projects which I work here and offer consultants, it's people don't know about themselves. It's me, they are so attached in proud, sometimes arrogance, sometimes in that peak of the I show, think they know everything, you know, and everyone think they know everything. Well, it cannot be a good thing. No, we cannot take a very good path to learn. And how we can come back for ourselves from your own responsibility and see also what you can let go to enter in real dialogue, to really see what's missing in that project, not just in relation with each other, but also to have a good and fresh eyes to see where is the gap. And it depends of the personal eyes, your own eyes to see the things, not to understand, to think you already know. Because in the doing stage, when you are really doing something, you are putting what you imagine in plan and in the dream in practice. And you suffer the influence of our environment and how you are resilient enough, flexible enough, how you can adapt in the new conditions and rethink your ideal, your plan. And it is the learning process. How you integrate and change the theory, change the plan in order to put in practice in the real world, in concrete life. The big blockage is on that. It's when you block at this dialogue between your plan, your ideal, your ideas, and don't change the practice and the theory. And also in the other dimension, you as a person dealing with the environment, with everything comes from environment, whatever it is, from the others come, from the others' attitudes, the others' behavior, and also the environment itself, where you are. So, and in this point, we can learn and really go deeper in the experience and apply everything you are learning and everything you already have learned from your life, from your past experience. In each moment is that. In each moment, you can really put in practice your learnings, your knowledge, and your wisdom. Yeah, it is a very interesting subject. So I can follow again. If some of you has another question or comment about what we have talked, or we can just finish the dialogue. John, we would like to add something?
Just briefly.
Yeah. Well, we lost your voice.
Every project can be created in the celebration stage as a story. And one very powerful way of celebrating your project is to create it as a story. And if you look at the way in which stories are told, the story starts off with the innocent, and you receive a call to adventure. You're called into your project by the circumstances in which you're living. And at first, in the story, we refuse to listen to the call. But as we engage with the call to adventure, and we set forth on the quest of doing your project, you will become the wanderer. You will receive help from strange places, from strange people. You'll be challenged in ways that you didn't expect. And then, as you engage in the doing of the project, you become the sacred warrior who engages in the struggle to get into the nitty-gritty of actually doing it. And when you're in the doing stage, something that happens, you discover that the blockages are not just out there in the world. The blockages are in here, inside me. And something inside me, too, also needs to be sacrificed. I need to find something to let go of if this project is going to be successful. And then if we can move through that sacrifice stage, we can come back as the magician. In the magician stage of your project, you become capable of using all the skills that you've developed up until now. But the task of the magician, you need to move back into the world, back to recover the sense of lost innocence, to make the changes that are necessary. If you get stuck in the magician stage, you become the sorcerer. You become the manipulator. And we need to move beyond that through into the wisdom that leads back to awareness. So I encourage you, if you want to look at how do you celebrate your project, how do you move into the celebration stage? Create your project as a story. And then you can share your story as a presentation or as a performance, even with other people. It's a powerful way to look at the learnings that you get through the deeper reflection that leads you to develop that wisdom. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, John. I want to just come for the one comment and question from Valerie. It's really interesting. She asked, I often witness a gap between my dream and doing. How I can help myself to move through? Yeah, it's interesting. The plan is the way we connect the dream to doing. And what's the plan? The plan when you have all this idea, the wish, the motivation, and you start to see how it can go to the practice. What's the first step? You can do something. Maybe, I don't know, Valerie, maybe you are thinking so huge. It's huge dream, then it's hard to find a way to start and doing. You can follow a method to plan that, or you can start to see what is the small step you can go ahead step by step and do what you can in that moment, and then the doing become, I hope, easier to achieve your big dream. So it's time to finish. I would like to finish just with one quotation from Krishnamurti. He said, if you know how to look and learn, then the door is open. The key is in your hand. No one in the world can give you that key or open the door other than self. It is what I think about learning. Definitely depend of you. Your pathway to learn, how you create your path, how you go step by step, and mainly reflect about and celebrate your learnings. Now recognize your learnings. So for today is it. Thank you to stay until the end. You know, we have that group. We are here available for any comments, any contact after that, any questions. I wish you a very good week and night or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Maybe you can write, you can tell one word. How are you leaving the meeting? To finish.
And if you don't do that, we hope to see you on the 28th of June.
28th of June, you have another meeting.
Wednesday, the 28th of June.
Great, inspiring to feel stuck. Hurt. Thank you. Yeah.
Excited about planning.
It's what?
Excited about planning.
Good. Plan is really good. I love to plan. Plan to do. Plan to do. Great. Thank you. Have a very good afternoon. Very good evening, John. Bye. See you.
Bye, everyone.